Hey there, and welcome to the KidzMatter Podcast, your go-to resource for all things children's ministry. Each week, we bring you fresh ideas, inspiring stories, and practical insights to help you lead, love, and serve kids like never before. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned pro, we're glad you're here. Let's get started. In today's episode of the KidzMatter Podcast, we'll be going back into the archives for an episode that was filmed at our 2024 KidzMatter Conference. This conversation between host Jordan Davis and Pastor Nate Nupanga from Mercy Road Church in Carmel, Indiana, is going to help us understand how we can support our senior pastor, not just during the Christmas season, but year-round. I believe it's so important to keep these principles in mind, so I hope you lean in, take some notes, and enjoy the conversation. Before we jump in, let's check out a message from our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Character's Choice, Inc. that exists to come alongside family pastors, caregivers, homeschool cohorts, Christian schools, and grandparents to equip them with faithful biblical practices to transform families. Instead of entertainment, we position a child's spirit to encounter God's spirit, leaving them transformed. Contact us at info@characterschoice.org today to learn more about our books, curriculum, training, and consulting for an innovative way to transformation. That's info@characterschoice.org. We can't wait to jump into today's conversation, so let's get started.
All right. What's going on, everybody? We're live at the KidzMatter Conference doing KidzMatter Podcast. This has been a fun few days. We're at the end of the last day. And so, Nate, people just got out of the main session. I heard the screams. I heard it was good. I wasn't able to be down there this session, but people are going in their last few breakouts. And sometimes at this point of the day, people are tired. I see a lot of caffeine today. But man, this has been an amazing conference. So if you missed KidzMatter Conference 2024, this is obviously going to be aired down the road. Make sure you can sign up and probably buy tickets right now for KidzMatter Conference 2025. And we were just talking even before we went on of like, this is a cool community. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's been incredible just meeting so many people from all over the place, to be reminded that we're part of the same kingdom. And I just, last night we're having this moment in worship. We took communion together and then in worship. And I just remember looking around the room and thinking, this is what heaven is going to feel like. And we get a taste of that in this moment. So really cool.
I love it. Nate, I know a little bit about you, not tons about you. I'd love just to sit and talk a little, just for a couple minutes, just even about you. Like, where do you come from? What have you done? Where have you been? Kind of, we're more than the story. What's the story behind you?
Yeah.
But then also, what's the why behind you? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So really unique upbringing. I was born in a village in the Democratic Republic of Congo. To parents that were in ministry at the time. My dad was pastoring a local church in that village and then also leading a Bible school there. And so lived there for the first few years. And then I ended up being raised in 4 different countries, picking up 5 languages along the way. Wow. But most of my life grew up on a seminary campus, because then he went back to his seminary to work on staff there. He's the president of that seminary now. Has been for a while. So just kind of had this unique upbringing as a ministry kid on a seminary campus, got to learn about God from a really young age. And so that's one of the reasons I love and care so much about kids ministry, because I look back on some of the most formative memories that I have, and it's growing up in the church and learning about Christ from a young age. And so much of the Bible that I learned growing up in that context. So my family moved back to the Central African Republic in 2003. And around that time, they had just gone through a civil war, because there was a coup that happened, and it was a very dangerous place to live, one of the most dangerous places in the world at the time, they were saying to live. And my parents at the same time felt called to serve there, but they also wanted a better future and education for me and my brother. And so it began this process of praying and saying, okay, God, what do you have for us? We feel like we have potential. There's more that you have for us, but we're just not in a place where we have access to education and all these things. And a couple of missionaries come out to the seminary to do a trip, and we get to know them. We're serving together, and they throw out this wild idea. Why don't you guys come to the United States and go to school here and live with us and study with our kids? And so we're kind of like, yeah, that's a crazy idea that will never happen. And so they come back and they continue to pursue us, and things didn't work out there, but they did connect us with another missionary couple that we knew just right outside of Chicago. And my brother and I then ended up coming to be international students at Wheaton Academy there, right there in West Chicago, Illinois. where for the first time I was away from my family at a Christian school in this new place, homesick, all the things you can imagine that come with that as a 16-year-old, being away from your family for the first time. And that became a time where I really had to ask myself, is my faith my own, or is this just the thing that I always grew up in?
Yeah.
And I remember being in a Bible class, and one of our teachers really challenged us to get into the scriptures. And he was just a big, former football player kind of teacher, had a voice kind of like this, and just like, man, it's just God's grace. It's God's grace, right? And he really challenged us to read the scriptures and to discover grace. And so I started reading, and Hebrews 9, 10, and 11 radically changed my faith forever. And it became the thing that tied together all these Bible stories that I had grown up learning, and why Jesus had to go to the cross and what he did, and once for all, his blood that was shed for me. And it's like just this light bulb moment that I had that radically changed my life. And that really led to this journey of me going off to college then at Taylor University, and just going, God, if you love me in that way, what do you want me to do with my life? Because a lot of the goals and things I had been pursuing in my life wanted nothing to do with ministry. That's really hard, growing up in a ministry family. And like, I saw the hard side of it. I don't want that. I want ease for my life. Whatever's the easiest way to go. And God just began this journey in me that led me to eventually changing my major, becoming a biblical studies major with really no plan. Just saying, I know that God did this for me. I'm excited about it, and I want to tell other people about it. And that's how I ended up here.
So what is something, before we even get into what you're supposed to talk about, as a preacher's kid, as a ministry kid, what do you think kept you in the faith? We all know the statistics of preacher's kids. I have 3 boys, and as I have a junior, my oldest, and I realize like I'm moving from that father to coach mentality with him.
Absolutely.
Like, what do we do for our kids? So many of you that are watching, I know you're in the trenches full time, you're in part time, and we're fighting the trends in ministry, but we're also fighting these battles at home. What do you think kept you in the faith?
Yeah, it's easy. Seeing my parents live out their faith in the same way at church as I did in the home. Like, it wasn't just a platform thing, that I got to watch behind the scenes at home, that their faith was real, that my mom and dad were the same person they were up on the platform as they were at home. That is why I'm still a believer today.
And I love that, because I think that's the easy part for a lot of leaders is you get home, you isolate yourself, you maybe over talk about the bad stuff, and your kids only see that side.
Absolutely.
And so, we gotta replicate what we're teaching.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into now that you're out of the kids ministry trenches, you're up in the upper. You got the big calling. Senior leadership, senior pastors, executive pastors. Like, how do we as kids leaders, one, have a relationship? I think it's maybe even where we start. Like, how do we get to know each other? It seems like there's always been, for me, this is my 20th year of ministry, I feel like there's always been a wall there. I'd love for you to dive into that.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think that relationship is a two-way relationship. One of the things I noticed as I started to move up into leadership in the church is that leadership can be isolating, because a lot of times you get to this point where people view you as being less approachable. And so I think as senior leaders, we need to go the extra mile, even put in more effort to be really intentional with the staff that we get to lead, with the church as a whole. But then also, I think as staff members, it's important to be intentional also about reaching out to your senior leaders and lean in relational, because they're human beings just like you, just happen to have a different seat on the team than you do, but they are just every bit as human as you are. They need the relationship, they need the care. They need somebody to reach out to them as well.
And I think that's the joke we all make. I mean, kids ministry, we always make it like, but I think it's put on us at an early age. I can't tell you how many times in 20 years of ministry I've been told, when are you going to be a big boy pastor, be a real pastor? And so we have adapted some of that. And so I joke about it, laugh about it. But I think one thing is most senior pastors would say, you're just as important. You're at the table too.
Absolutely.
We can, all jokes aside, I want to hear your voice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so give us some practical things. I know you came with a list. Give us some practical ways that we can have, a good relationship, but how can we work together moving forward with momentum?
Yeah, so I would say the number one thing is to pray for your leaders and your lead pastor. And I know it sounds like the typical Sunday school answer, it's the easy thing, but no, seriously, I do believe that is probably the most important thing, because if the enemy is going to take out the church, he's going to start at the top.
Yeah.
And people don't realize the pressures that come with being in a leadership role. And that is why I would say the number one best thing you can do is to cover your leadership, your leaders with prayer like crazy, because they really need it.
And I think this is one of the most overlooked things that has changed my life. I'll never forget, about 8 years ago, I was going through some stuff in ministry.
Yeah.
And Ricardo Miller sat and said, I hear you complaining. I see you complaining. I see that you're going through some rough stuff. And I mentioned this the other day, and he said, Jordan, when's the last time you prayed for your senior pastor?
Oof, wow.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't know when I have. I don't know if I have.
Yeah.
I've been so bitter and so mad that I don't know if I have.
Yeah.
And it's changed my life.
Absolutely.
It has changed my life, because anytime I want to be frustrated, I want to complain, I'm on my knees praying, because it's a two-way street.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So
So
good.
some of the most impactful messages I get, there's a guy who I met at a wedding I was officiating a few years ago, and got to know him, and he will send me an encouraging message on Facebook every single Sunday morning. It pops up on my phone. Others that will text me on a Sunday morning. So as I'm going into church on Sunday, all of that, just to know that I have people that are praying for me makes the biggest difference in the world. Yeah.
And I think it's the thing of, people got your back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's number 2?
Point number 2 would be to ask good questions. It's easy sometimes as leaders to be high level visionaries. We live in this world, we're dreaming things for years, we're thinking about it, processing it, and then sometimes we come and you lay that out to the team, and there's like this pushback and conflict can come from that. And so I would encourage staff members to ask really good questions, to try to understand, like, hey, my leader maybe is making this decision or wants to lead us in this direction. Hey, they said this thing. Is that really what they meant? Because a lot of times they've been thinking through this for a really long time, and it's up here in their minds.
Yeah.
And a lot of high-level leaders struggle with taking that and like actually figuring out a practical way to explain that to people, to bring people along sometimes. And the thing that helps to solve that is to ask really good questions, to get to the heart of like, hey, why are we making this decision? What are some of the outcomes you're wanting to see, or what do you hope to get out of it? All those clarifying things really help to build a strong relationship.
That's good. And I think a lot of kids leaders feel like they're not brought in the conversation a lot of times.
Yeah.
But by asking some why questions, we hear the heart of the why.
Absolutely.
And sometimes just asking a question, your senior pastor may say, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But sometimes we approach it, well, like, you didn't think about me, you didn't do this. But if I say, well, how do you want me to handle this part of it? Because it affects me this way. And
Absolutely.
they're like, oh, I didn't do that. Instead of me coming accusationally or coming with a problem, it's like, well, how do you want me to fix this? Can we work on this together?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. All right, number 3.
Yeah, point number 3, I would say to absorb the vision and DNA of the church. That it's so important for you as a team member to be somebody that you actually understand what the vision and the mission of the church is, because it helps to bring alignment, right? It helps to make sure that you are serving and carrying out the vision that leader has. And I would tell my staff all the time, other people, that I'm here at the church to do 2 things: to serve the Lord, and then ultimately to serve our lead pastor, who he has placed in authority to lead our church. And so being able to understand that vision helps a lot to make sure that is actually happening. So absorbing that vision and DNA of the church is so important.
That was a good one. Can you break that one down a little bit? Like, what do you think that looks like maybe for a kids pastor, youth pastor, next gen, like practical ways, tangible ways? What is it? How do we do that?
Yeah. So every church has a unique way that they feel God's called them out to live out this mission, the Great Commission, right? Some churches, their heart is really like, we want to be about discipleship. And so if that's the DNA of your church, then saying, okay, if that's what the church is about, what does that look like in kids ministry?
Yeah.
What does that look like to disciple students, right? And if you want to be a church that is going to be about outreach and justice in the community, how do I then, as a kids pastor, go, okay, as kids are coming in and we're teaching them these things, what are some practical ways that I can show them what it looks like to go and to love your neighbor in your school, in your communities, whatever that might look like. So just practical ways to absorb that DNA and then to figure out does that actually apply to my area of ministry.
Yeah. And I think that is also on the other side too, a good way to get buy-in from your leadership.
Absolutely.
For me, we're a church that does a lot of outreach.
Yeah,
we have our own foundation. We do free legal clinics. We have food pantries, all of those things. Yeah. And so for me to go to my senior pastor and say, I need money for an event, maybe one thing, but I need money to go do a event that's serving.
Yes.
He's going to be all about it. This is who we are.
Yes.
But me saying, hey, I want to bring in this family fun event, he's going to ask some questions.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think for you that are watching and listening, like when you replicate that DNA, you're going to get buy-in, not just from your staff or from your whole community, because they're already seeing that vision from the church. And so they're going to know this is part of the vision. And so we're going to support that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, so what's the next one?
Yeah. So the next one, number 4 would be absorb the DNA and then diffuse the DNA. It kind of goes hand in hand in what we're just talking about. But what you realize is if you get to be a part of the ministry, you're doing things well, those things are going to grow. And as they grow, the lead pastor no longer has that personal touch with every single person in the church. Yeah. But guess who does? The staff do. And so to be a DNA and vision diffuser means really owning and absorbing that DNA. And then in all those spheres of influence and circles that you're in, being somebody that can diffuse that. So I got to live in the space of being a campus pastor at a multi-site church for about 5 years. Yeah. And the thing I worked really hard to do was to understand our senior pastor, his mentality, how would he deal with problems, even language that he would use. So as I was leading my campus that was an hour away from the main campus of the church, to be able to diffuse that and influence that in that way, because he can't be there to do that. But I am there to lead the people and shepherd them in that way. So I think absorbing the DNA, but then diffusing it as much as you can in every conversation, in every ministry area is really important.
Yeah, and I think this is where rubber meets the road, the nitty-gritty of having your pastor's back. Yeah. Not only are you diffusing situations and environment, but you're diffusing things that are wrong about the DNA, like misconceptions. Yes. The whole perception versus reality. Yes. You as people think this is what you're hearing, but this is not what you're hearing. This is what you're really hearing. Yep. Yeah, I think that is where humility comes in big time. Yeah. All right, so what's the last one?
Yeah, so the last one might sound a little bit obvious, but to be a good team player. To do your part. My dad, who's a senior pastor, would always say being a lead pastor means you're the worship pastor, you're the kids pastor, you're the youth pastor, you're the everything pastor. What he meant by that is that if anything is going wrong in all those areas, it's your problem as the lead pastor. And ultimately, you're the one responsible who gets held accountable for how things are going. One of the best ways that I try to, as a staff member, to support my lead pastors to do my part, to not be one of the areas that is another problem for him to solve, right? Because anything that goes wrong in the church, that keeps them up at night. They're carrying the burden of that. And my commitment was always like, hey, I'm going to crush it in my area. I'm going to be a great teammate, help them to build the culture that they want to build, connect with the other staff members, care for the other staff members, hold the other staff members accountable as a peer, even to say, hey, here's where he's trying to lead us. Here's what's God doing. Let's get behind on that and do my part so that I can be one less problem for the lead pastor by just being a great teammate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another one where you get buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all have probably been around some toxicity in staffs, and there's nothing good about that. Yeah, and a lot of it starts with us. Yeah, it starts with us as especially as support staff. Yeah, and we all want to be in a culture that is succeeding, and a culture succeeding is working together. Yeah, and that's team player. Yeah, I know I've been laughing just even today of we're hosting a big event. So we're here at the KidzMatter Conference. In 2 days, there's a big event at our church. Yeah, and it's a kids event. But guess what? My whole staff is here.
Yes. Yeah.
And while we're here, there's people that have our back. Absolutely. They're getting stuff set up. They're arguing right now that I think the price of a food truck. They're doing things, but I can sit here and not be worried about what is happening. Yes. Because I know there's people that have the back of our kids ministry department. Yeah. And that's freeing. Yes. That's freeing in ministry that takes stress off us. Yeah. And so when that's happening, now it's like, okay, so what's next? What's the big event that my senior pastor is working on that I can have his back and I can take care of some of those, maybe the balls that drop. Yeah. I would love, as we start getting into the closing of this, I would love for you to talk about just a few things. What are some practical things that maybe we can ask or say that would encourage our senior pastor?
Yeah, I think we talked about this already, but the hey, how can I pray for you is a really important one. I think the other one that I would ask, again, when I was a campus pastor and we got to have quarterly meetings with our senior pastor, I would always ask the question, hey, like, what's been keeping you up at night? Or, hey, what are you most excited about? And that would always bring a lot of clarity just to help me to step into their world. Like, hey, here's what God's laying on their heart. And to help to say, how can I be a part of that and even be thinking in that way already? That was always a really helpful one. And then always asking them, like, hey, is there anything that you want for me to work on or to be doing?
Yeah, asking for that feedback. That's sometimes the hard one. I think also just some things that I've realized as a kids pastor is like when families ask about my kids or when my staff ask about my kids,
so good.
It means that they care. Absolutely. They're not just asking what's going on in my life. They're saying, how are your kids? How is your wife? How is your family? I think that's important. And then also I would just challenge you as kids leaders and leaders, schedule a dinner with your senior pastor and don't talk about church. My senior pastor and I, we go out every Thursday night.
Oh, that's great.
And we don't talk about church. And it provides opportunities for us to have a relationship outside the church. I think sometimes as support staff or kids leaders, kids pastors, youth pastors, next gen, whatever, that we think the only discussion we can have with our senior leadership is about church. And they care a lot about church, but they care a lot more about you.
Absolutely.
And so going into it with that mentality and opening that door is super important. Nate, as we close, I would love, one thing we've been talking about in all these over the last little bit is this year feels a little different here. We could say this every year that I think there's a lot of people struggling. But this year it feels even more. I've said a few times today and yesterday that I've talked to a lot of kids leaders that it's not that they're ready to leave the church they're at. They're ready to leave the church. And so I would love for you just to spend just a couple minutes from your heart. What would you say to encourage the leader that's just done? We had a conversation yesterday with a person that I came to this conference. I'm just going to be honest with you, Jordan. I said, I came to this conference, and if God doesn't show up, I'm done.
Wow.
And so I would love to speak to that person today and just speak from your heart.
Yeah, man, that's it's so timely. So that'll be actually the topic of the breakout that I'm leading later this afternoon. And, in Matthew 4, as Jesus was calling the disciples, 2 words he said to them, follow me. And he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And I think there's something in ministry where we get excited about what God's done for us. And man, he loves me in this way. And we're excited to tell others about it. We start doing that so well that somebody gives us a job. And then after a while, it becomes a job. And I think we can lose that heart of what it all comes down to is that invitation to follow Jesus, to be a disciple, to be in a relationship with him every day. And it can become a job. And that's where a lot of the discouragement and all those things can come from. And I think for that person who's listening, I would just encourage them and say that, hey, your primary calling isn't to do ministry for Jesus. It's actually obedience first. And that everything we do should overflow from that relationship that we have. And so it's this invitation that he's giving us, and he's just saying, hey, come walk with me and allow me to make you. We do the following, he does the making. And there's just something so powerful in that I think even in my own life, I tend to forget that it all starts with my relationship with him first before anything else that I do. And so to really take time to lean into God's word, to spend time in prayer, because that's really important.
Sure reminds me so much that a lot of times we get to that point and we think it's a ministry problem, and a lot of times it's a personal problem. It's a spiritual problem.
Absolutely.
And so, that self-examination of your own self, of how much am I in the word? How am I praying? Am I doing those things? Or have I just been going through the motions for a long time? Guys, I hope you hear that. I hope you hear, Nate, I appreciate your heart. Thank you so much. Thank you for being faithful. Thank you for being a man of humility. And thank you for pouring in the next generation of leaders. And so Guys, that's it for the podcast today. We hope that you hear this, rewind it back. There's some good nuggets in this one. And also, man, they're missing the 2024. Probably if you're sitting at home, you may have missed this year's conference. Go on, get a ticket right now for the 2025. What we love to say here at KidzMatter is we're not a field of experts. We're a field of learners. And when you're in breakout sessions, you're not hearing from somebody that's going to say, I know it all. So they're saying, I'm trying to figure this out. Let's walk this journey together. And we're going to be a group of learners that figures out how to help disciple this next generation. So Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later.
Jordan touched on a really important principle. Sometimes we're not even thinking about praying for our senior pastor, but that's always the best place to start. Make space in your life as we close out 2025 and head into 2026 to pray regularly for your pastor. Nate shared some incredible principles, but even if you only take away the fact that you can be praying for your pastor, you've gotten some great content. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you come back ready to continue to learn with us next week. If you'd like to learn more about Characters Choice Inc., you can email them at info@characterschoice.org. And as you noticed, this episode was filmed during the 2024 KidzMatter Conference. We are currently selling tickets for the 2026 KidzMatter Conference in Evansville, Indiana. We'd love for you to snag some of those, maybe as a Christmas gift. You can visit thekidzmatterconference.com to grab yours today. That's thekidzmatterconference.com. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.